Hi, how you doing? So welcome to this tutorial, and I'm going to show you how to create this space age look to your images. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I think it's really important that we learn how to manipulate color so we can create different moods in our images. So you can see the original is on the left, and it's a really nice shot with warm tones on the skin, really nice eyes on there. So it's really smooth and it's to the point and it catches your eye. And one on the right, you can see that it's the exact same image, but I've just manipulated these colors, and you can see it completely changes the mood and the tone of the image. So I want to show you how to do this from the start. So I'm going to press the reset button and walk you through the process. So the first thing I'm going to do is just elongate out the panel to the side there. There we go. Right, so I'm just going to boost this temperature up just a little bit, and maybe just boost that tint up a little bit as well, and just bring this exposure down just a smidgen there. Okay, so the main thing I'm going to start doing is bringing down this contrast, because I want to flatten the image a little bit. So I'm going to do that with the contrast, and I'm also going to bring the highlights down, and because of that I'm going to bring the shadows up halfway, so to +50. And then going to come to the whites, completely take them out, and then push the blacks up a little bit just to counteract that. So there we go. Again, we're just flattening the image so we can then start adding our own textures and colors. So let's add a little bit of texture. And I don't want to add too much in the actual texture section because it can make skin look a bit odd. But what I will do is add more texture in the tone curves and use colors to do that as well. Let's just bring the clarity down a little bit just to soften it. So -10, there we go. Right, and the other thing that I want to do is just bring down the color of the whole of the image. So I'm going to bring the vibrance, not the saturation. I'm just going to bring the vibrance down to about -24, 25. And again, that just takes the sting out of the whole image. So if you look, what I've done there is quite simple. I've just really flattened it and taking out all that that sort of warm tones that are present in there. So let's move on to the tone curve, and what I'm going to do in here is just create 3 points. So in the whites, the midtones, and the blacks, I'm going to bring these blacks down, so you can see we've got this sort of peak here on this graph. So I'm just going to pull that up to there. There we go. And the tops, I'm just going to push them up a little bit to about there. There we go. Maybe just bring these across a little bit. So that's looking pretty good. So it's quite a steep S-curve. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go to the reds, right click, and I'm going to paste that. I'm going to do the same in the greens. So right click, paste, and the same in the blues. Right click, paste. But what I am going to do in the blues is just drop this down here, and just drop this down a little bit as well. There we go. So we're just suppressing the whites in that area there. Okay, so if you look at what we've just done there, we've kind of started to bring that color back just by messing around with these tone curves. Okay, you can see there is quite a contrasting image now. So now what we need to do is come onto the colors and manipulate the colors so that we can just tone it down a little bit. So the hues, I'm going to start with the hues. So the reds, I want to bring them down so they are more red. And the orange, I'm going to bring that up just a little bit, so it's more in the yellow spectrum, so about +6. And the yellows, I want to bring that down to around there. And then the greens, I'm going to push them up so they are in the aqua range, and then the aqua, I'm going to push them up as well to around 40, 42 up there. And then the blues, are going to bring them down. There we go. I'm not going to do anything with purple, and the magenta, I'm just going to push that up. So let's go to the saturation, because now what we can do is just start taking away some of that color. So -42, 43 looks good. Around the same with the orange as well. 40. A little bit less on the yellow, so 30, -30. That looks good. Yep, green, let's take a bit more, -80, no one likes green. And aqua is -80 again, maybe a little bit more. That's it. Blue -90, and I think the other two are okay. Let's go to the luminance, so the brightness now. Let's just increase the brightness of some of these shades. So 12, orange, about there, yellow, about there. That looks good. Let's push the orange up. Aqua, about 50. Blue, about 26. And magenta, I reckon we just need to take that out a little bit, about there. So if we look at what we've done with the colors, you can see that just from the tone curve we had a lot of orange or a lot of yellows in there. So now what we've done is kind of neutralize that skin tone. You can see we've started to create that really nice sort of space age look, where it's kind of like a cream look, isn't it, to the skin. It's almost matching the shirt there, so it looks quite good. So let's go into the color grading panel, because I want to add some color in the highlights and in the shadows. So we're in the highlights, so I'll start with the highlights to begin with, and I think the highlight I went for, the color was about 196. It was around that mark there, so it's almost a blue aqua kind of color, isn't it? And I think a saturation of about 18, something like that. And the luminance, I pushed that up to 100, so you can see what that does. Really makes it brighter and just makes it pop a little bit, so you can see what I've just done. Again, it just makes the image pop a little bit more, doesn't it? So let's go to the shadows, and the shadows, I had a hue of around 201, 202 out there. There we go. So it's very much in the same range. Saturation 11, just a little bit, not as much. And then the blending, I'm going to push that towards 100, and that's what gives us that final kind of space age look. You can see that every time that I've gone down a step, we've almost brightened them skin tones, and every time that I'm doing it, we're kind of compounding that effect now. If I go back a few steps, you'll be able to see what I mean. So you can see it was there, and here. So I've really started to take all them colors out, yeah, and that's what gives it that real nice space age look, so to speak. So this part's quite important, actually. So what I've been doing is sharpening the images quite a bit. So I've been pushing them up to around 62, 63, and then bringing the radius down to half a pixel, and then dropping the details so to around 20, around that area, around there, and then really pushing the masking up. So if you hold Alt or the Option key down, you can see where you start to affect. So it's just the white areas that are affecting the image. There we go. So that looks pretty good. So that just brings out a lot of the detail. And we're going to need to add some noise reduction into this, because we've done a lot of work on this. So I reckon just about 10 is okay. Detail, I'm going to push that up to around there, because I want to keep a lot of detail. And then because I want this to be a high contrasting image, I'm pushing this up to around 83, 84 again. Okay, and then in the color, just push this up a little bit higher, because we've done a lot in the color. There we go. Keep the detail at 50 and smoothen this at 50 as well. And that is pretty much it. So if we just look at that as a before and after, you can see what we've done there. So we've just made that pop and really took that saturation color out of the skin tone. So the other thing that I did as well is I actually adjusted the eyes. So I got the brush tool, and I actually pushed the flow and the density and the feather quite high, so it's quite a quite a solid brush. I've gone around the eyes and I've actually changed the hue of the eyes. And the reason why I've done that is because by taking out that colour of the skin and cooling it, it just means that the eyes now are, I think would look better just having them change to a blue tone. So there we go. So if I take the overlay away, we can just change the hue here. So there we go. I dropped it right down to there, and I think just push them up a little bit, not too much though, to around there. I think that looks pretty good. And obviously if you need to go back, you can just keep going over this until you make sure you've got every last part. There's a few bits that I missed there that I can see. That's it. There you go. That is it. That is how you do it. So if you look at that, you can see there that's created this kind of, it is almost like a space age effect, isn't it? So yeah, the original there is obviously color corrected and smoothed out perfectly fine. That's how it's supposed to be, but then just going for something that's a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more space age, so to speak, and that's how you do it. So I hope that's helped. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next video.